And usually we do it quite well. What I'd like to do is, as we begin, we always begin with prayer. And for those of you who don't know it, this is our normal monthly meeting. And what our association did, in lieu of having our meeting, they agreed to listen to the candidates and see what we will be coming up with in the election that will be coming up shortly. So at this time, what I would like to do is just call one of our ministers who happens to be the chaplain of Jackson State. Where are you? And ask him if he would please offer prayer. And he does, as he does that, I want you all to do something that I do so often when we're at the Capitol. As he prays, what I'd like you to do is just reach out to the person that's next to you and catch that person's hand, because I believe in unity and unity in prayer. So whoever it is that's next to you, please stay there.
Let us all pray. Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this city. We thank you for West Side neighborhood. We thank you right now for each candidate. Bless them as they come in and as they go out. Bless the people and this whole city of Jackson. And Lord, let peace and unity prevail like it never has before. Let us have ears to hear and minds open. And you be our blessing this day and forever. We ask in your Son Jesus' name. Let everybody who believes in children of the light say amen.
Amen. Thank you so very much. I know it's a bit kind of crowd, but I'd like to do what all of you who are members of the West Jackson Association Central, would you please raise your hands where you are? Just raise your hands where you are. Okay. Okay. Thank you all so very much. I do appreciate that and I appreciate you coming. We also, as one of our members of this association, would you all believe the mayor is a member of our association? Mayor, would you please come on and just briefly welcome your people?
Good evening. Good evening. Unity. That's the word from today through the election. Even after the election. We want to make sure Jackson is a unified city, working for the best interests of all of us in this city. I would like to welcome you to West Jackson, Ward 5, in which I represent. I have a group of good citizens who supports West Jackson, look out for the welfare of West Jackson, and also citywide. I appreciate that group, and I appreciate all the citizens of the great city of Jackson, Mississippi. I would like to welcome all the candidates that are here tonight to offer themselves for the leadership of this great city. They are excellent candidates. Listen to them, evaluate them, and support them as they go through this process. And they certainly will appreciate it. Now tonight, West Jackson is the host. And we want to make sure we are the host. We're going to be polite, we're going to be respectful, and we're going to let the candidates be themselves and share with you their platform. The word is respect. Thank you.
And while we're getting started, we have one other quick announcement we would like to make. Dr. Holmes.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Not a candidate, I'm a candidate up to the club. It's probably West Haven. I'm a teacher at Triple College. I teach at Jackson State, 27 years, Triple, 22. All my professional life in home school, has been offering internship pay. Still offering one and two. In fact, I've had interns work with Virginia Queen, and John Holmes, right? I'm offered students credit. They get credit either by internship page, and I have their phone number, cell number, or they can do it through volunteer service. At the end of this discussion, I have my card and the name of the student. I had 15 in about 13. Thank you very much.
Additional credit that we get, and that's something we're really quite paid. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in for a big. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Well, maybe I'm just not talking loud enough. Do you think so now? Okay. I was thinking, is that any better? Well, hopefully, when we get started, the other mics will perform much better, the ones that are on the table. What I was going to say, how we're so blessed to have all of these candidates who have offered themselves to us, and we're grateful for that. And I've been telling people all day, you say that Jackson is not the place to be, but if you have 15 people who want to be the mayor, you got to do something good about it. Know that we are honored to have a young man who will be moderating this for us. He is Dr. Ricky Hill. He is the professor of political science at Jackson State University, and he has a long list of places and things that he's done. But rather than putting the program off any longer, I'd just like to ask Dr. Ricky Hill. Please come forward. He's also going to tell you, please turn off your cell phone. Please turn the cell phones off. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Clark. Good evening. It is my pleasure and my honor to be asked to moderate this panel of mayoral candidates. We are at a very important moment here in Jackson. And I would urge us to take this moment very serious. As has been noted, I ask that you put off our cell phones, pagers, and other noise-making devices to give these candidates your respect and your attention as we move forward. Each candidate will have 2-minute opening statements. They will have 1-minute opening statements, 2-minute closing statements. We will have questions from the audience. There will be monitors in the audience to help us handle the questions from the audience. After we take the audience questions, each candidate will have their 2-minute closing statements. So without further ado, we would like to get started. And if the candidates do not mind, I would like to start with Attorney Regina Quinn to give her opening statement to us.
Good evening, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to thank the West Central Jackson Improvement Association for hosting this forum. Again, I'm Regina Quinn, and I'm running for mayor of the city of Jackson. I called Jackson home all of my life. I grew up on Ridgeway Street. I was the first general counsel of Jackson State University and had a lot to do with the improvement around campus. I'm extremely proud of that. We face many challenges in Jackson, and undoubtedly we're going to face many more. But one thing that I'm sure of, that none of these challenges are insurmountable. We can do this, Jackson. We are going to do this. We have a great city, a wonderful city. I have a passion for Jackson. I know that I have the capability of handling this job, with the commitment as well. If we work together, we can achieve some extraordinary things. But if we are divisive, if we keep pulling each other apart, we're going to accomplish very little. So I'm asking you to join me and let's move Jackson forward together.
Thank you, Attorney.
Good evening. I'm Francis Smith. I'm a local pastor here in this great city of Jackson, Mississippi. I am too a candidate for the mayoral race for this lovely city. And what I plan to do here is to do things that no other mayor has done before. For the past 12, 13 years, we have been in a great abyss. It's time to come out of the pits of hell and let's do things the right way, not so much politically, but with common sense. I look forward to seeing you at the polls. I need you to remember the name throughout this campaign, Francis Smith. I will be your next mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Dodd.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tony Yarborough. I'm excited to have the opportunity to represent Ward 6 as the city councilman. First, I want to give God glory for the opportunity to be here, and I also want to thank West Central Jackson Association, and I also want to thank our moderator, Mr. Hill. It's my desire to be mayor of the city of Jackson. Ladies and gentlemen, our city is at an extremely critical point, and I have the understanding that this city needs a leader who's prepared to do this from day one. We've gotten off to a great start. And it's our opportunity to move the ball down the field and score the touchdown that this city is so desperately needed. I'm excited to have the support not only of the people who are in this city, but of family. My wife and I, who are raising our children in this city. We have 3 children. One's a student at Jackson State. 2 are in Jackson Public Schools right now. It's the 2 of us have matriculated through Jackson Public Schools. We need a mayor who's prepared to lead, who will be innovative, and not only who talks about the opportunity to be for the people, but who is absolutely of the people. Tony Yarborough, ladies and gentlemen, I need your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd. Mr. Johnson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I too would like to thank the West Central Jackson Improvement Association for sponsoring this forum, and thank all of you for being here. Because your presence means that you're interested in the city of Jackson. And that's what we need. We need citizens who are interested in the city of Jackson. You know, it's a shame that 30% of the voters in the city of Jackson elects the mayor of the city of Jackson. We need to do better than that. We can do better than that. I stand before you as a public servant with over 40 years, 4 decades of service to the citizens of Jackson, to the citizens of this state. We've built a foundation together. My commitment to you is to continue to build on that foundation, to continue to move this city forward. We can do better. Have we done everything that needs to be done? No. But we can do better in terms of moving this city forward. What we need is experienced leadership. What we need is experience you can trust. I'm offering myself again for mayor of the city of Jackson. I ask for your prayers, I ask for your support, and I ask for your vote on April 8th.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Ms. Barrett, time. I'm sorry, excuse me.
Well, the mayor just took my words, but I too am here tonight to ask for your support as a candidate for mayor of the city of Jackson. I've been on the council for 29 years. I ran for office when the form of government changed in 1985. My 5th daughter was starting 1st grade, and along the way, through the years, people have asked me, Margaret, why don't you run? I did not ever think that I would have the time to do that. I was totally committed to my family. With the untimely death of Mayor Lumumba, I find that it may be the right time for me, and I think the future of Jackson is bright. We have so much to do and so much to offer, and I ask for the support of each and every one of you. Thank you very much. And thank you, West Central Jackson Improvement Association, for hosting this tonight. And what a wonderful tribute to democracy in our city to see you all here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Mr. Lumumba.
Good evening. I'm attorney Shokwe Antar Lumumba. I am the managing partner of Lumumba Freeline and Associates. I know that I don't have much time, so I'm going to be brief here with this introduction. Look, I'm not a politician. My father actually introduced the discussion with me into entering electoral politics, and I told him that I wasn't interested. There were other things that I was doing in serving the community. And so I didn't think that that was in my immediate purview. But February 25th changed that for me because I realized that I was the best person situated to carry forward the vision that was set forth by the People's Platform. And I'm not the best person situated because I carry his name. And I'm not running on emotion. What I'm running on is understanding. I understand the principles that have to guide us, the principles that incorporate the people in the process of governing. The government has to be accountable to the people. And so that is what you will get in a Shokwe Antar Lumumba administration, much like you got in a Shokwe Lumumba administration. And, you know, we can be of the people, right? But sometimes people who are of the people even betray the people. So we have to be committed to the people.
Good evening. My name is John Horn, and I'm a candidate for mayor of the city of Jackson, and I'm here to ask for your vote and your support. You know, this race is going to be about deliverance. It's going to be about who has delivered for the city of Jackson and who will deliver for the city of Jackson in the future. Let's look at what the proven leadership is. Let's look at the track record of these people. Let's look at where we've come and where we're going to go. Who has the relationships? Who has the ability? Who has the opportunity? Who's already delivered for Jackson? I've delivered for Jackson for over 20 years in my position in the state legislature. I have a track record. I have delivered for Jackson. I will deliver for Jackson in the future as your mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. Mr. Priestley.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is City Council President Melvin Priester Jr. And like many of you, I'm tired of Jackson trying to keep up with other communities. I am tired of Jackson trying to catch up with other communities. It is time for Jackson to get ahead. We are going to hear people talk a lot about experience. But just because people have been doing something for a long time doesn't mean people are doing something well. I have been working hard all my life. I worked hard to go from JPS to Harvard and Stanford. I worked hard on city council to make sure our budgets line up with our priorities. And I am running today to give Jackson the tools it needs to get ahead. The tools it needs to do something different about crime. The tools to do something different about economic development. So on April 8th, I'm asking for your prayers and I'm asking for your vote for Melvin Priester Jr. so we can stop doing things the same and do something different.
Thank you, Mr. Priestley.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Albert Wilson. I also want to be the next mayor. And my name, I don't have an attorney behind my name, or I'm not one of these eloquently speaking politicians, but I'm a business mayor here in Jackson. And I'm also a community organizer who has dedicated my life in service to people. I'm a product of youth. I was born right here in Georgetown, and I went to Wingfield, and I received my bachelor's degree right here at Jackson State, and working on my master's at Mississippi College. So the knowledge that I have as a business person was what has prepared me uniquely to be your mayor. Not only have I written budgets, but I've implemented them. I've completed payrolls, I've given jobs and services. So I just want to thank the organizers here who invited us to here at West Jackson, and we look forward to continue this conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Now let us get to the questions. The questions will be asked in sequences of three. That is, the first three candidates will be asked a question. Then we will move to the next question for the next three candidates. All candidates will be asked to respond to the very last question. These questions have been developed by the Central West Jackson Improvement Association. The moderator had nothing to do with these questions. The first question, Attorney Quinn. It has been rumored that the city is not applying for all available Housing and Urban Development and Community Development Block Grant funding. How do you plan to address the issue of dilapidated housing in Jackson?
I'm so glad you asked that, because that's going to be a critical part of my administration. What we've been lacking within the city of Jackson, I believe, is just not enough ability to go out and get the federal dollars that are there. Now, we know that there are no more earmarks, but then the institutions, the agencies are still able to provide monies to institutions, to academic institutions, and to governments. In terms of what we need to do to get more money is to put together a grant writing team, not just one person in one department or another, but to create a cohesive environment where people can write the grants, but not only write the grants and pay the money to fulfill the programmatic issues of the grant, but to make sure that we're getting reimbursed. The city of Jackson, like many other institutions, they provide the services, spend the money, but unfortunately don't do the paperwork and what's needed in order to get reimbursed for that money. That's a great financial burden. We've got to clean up this city. We'll do that. It's difficult to give you my whole platform and vision for what needs to be done in this regard, but please, I would love to talk with you more about it and visit my website, www.reginaquinnformayor.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn. The same question for you, Mr. Smith.
As a former city employee, that was the department that I worked in. And I would like the city to know that there are funds that are still in the system that have not been used. I don't know what the previous mayors have really been pushing out to the people or as far as the administration, but there are contingency funds that are within the city. If you don't know it's there, then you wouldn't know what to look for. I've helped write some of these grants. I do know that the city council has signed off on some of these grants. I do know that we've received some of the money. I do know that a lot of that money has not yet been spent. A lot of this can be geared towards our infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Same question, Mr. Young.
Thank you. When you're of the people and you live in South Jackson, this problem is not anything that's new to you. That's why preparation has given me the opportunity to understand that, first of all, the city of Jackson has not leveraged the full scope of the legislation that is before us right now. How many of you know that after the city has gone onto a property, cleaned it up, that we have the ability to go back on that property up to 6 times within 1 year to clean that property again? How many times has that happened for you? I know. Under that administration, under this administration, those things will be different. We'll leverage what we already have. Second of all, we're going to be really creative. We're going to use housing, this real estate, as incentive opportunities for our city employees. No, we can't pay you a whole lot of money, but we're going to definitely get you in a house that's going to save you anywhere from $300 to $500 a month, and no one is giving raises like that anywhere. This is pie in the sky. It's low-hanging fruit. We're ready and poised to do it, and that's what prepared leadership is going to do for the men and women that work in the city of Jackson.
Mr. Johnson, your question, as well as Ms. Barrett, Simone, and Mr. Lumumba, is this. How would you utilize economic development instruments such as new market tax credits to grow the city?
Well, first of all, I have experience in utilizing the market tax credits. But not only do we need the new market tax credits, we need other incentives that can be provided by the city. A prime example of that is the new Bellhaven building across from Baptist Hospital. We went into that building and we provided tax increment financing, which is another tool that can be used to help developers in terms of offsetting costs. Because of that, we also were able to negotiate with them to hire Jacksonians. We had a program called Jobs for Jacksonians because we need to put Jacksonians to work here in the city of Jackson. Through that program, we were able to guarantee 80 people jobs on that particular site. So not only do we need new markets tax credits, we need other incentives that the city can provide. We need to understand how to work with developers to make sure that their projects are successful, and more importantly, to make sure that we put Jacksonians to work.
Ms. Barrett, Simone, same question.
Thank you. Most of the economic development that's occurring in the city of Jackson right now is occurring in Ward 7. It's most of downtown, the neighborhood surrounding downtown, the Baptist building that the mayor just mentioned. And in each and every one of those projects, we are involved from the very beginning. And we try to be very creative and using any kind of incentives for bringing more growth and development. The jobs for Jacksonians is huge. We started out with people telling us they didn't think they could comply with that. That's not true. We were able to accomplish it. We're proud of it. And now in every development that's coming forward today, those incentives are included and everyone complies with them.
Thank you, Mr. National. Same question.
And can I get the question one more time, please?
The question is, how would you utilize economic development instruments such as new market tax credits to grow the city?
Well, we would be creative in all methods in terms of developing the city. We would look at new market tax credits. And another thing that we look at is, a part of my platform. We've talked about, this is the People's Platform, which was generated from a collective genius. We've talked about greenhousing and using green energy and things of that nature in order to develop the city. That's important. That's not only important in terms of how we look at our carbon footprint, but the government is providing grants and they are helping to fund development through using green energy. We look at the development of this city as a critical part of how we will...
30 seconds.
We look at the development, how we are going to do the development in this city as a critical part to many of the issues that we suffer from here in Jackson. We have gone further towards the development of this city and trying to develop this city in the last 7 months than has taken place in the last 12 years or so.
There's a timekeeper here. The timekeeper will raise up cards informing the candidates how much time they have left. So please pay attention to the cards there. Otherwise, I will note that for you next in your comments. Okay. The next question is for, we'll start with candidate Horn. This question will also be answered by Mr. Priester and Mr. Wilson. Have you developed a spending plan for revenue? I'm sorry, excuse me, we have a question that we want to wait and make it the last question. I'm about to get out of order. The question, Mr. Horn, is this. If not mandated by the legislature, would you support efforts to have individual wards and neighborhood associations choose appointments to the Jackson Public School Board? If not mandated by the legislature. If you and others, Mr. Horn, do not mandate such.
What is the question?
If not mandated by the legislature, would you support efforts to have individual wards and neighborhood associations choose appointments to the Jackson Public School Board?
As opposed to the mayor choosing them and having it confirmed by the city council?
As opposed to the...
No, I wouldn't. I think the mayor is the chief elected official of the city. He ought to have appointment power of who is going to lead the educational efforts of the city. And we just passed a law a year or so ago where the city of Jackson is the only city in the state of Mississippi that has ward representation from each of its 7 wards. We went from 5 members to 7 members with the opportunity with the objective to give every ward representation on the school board. With the rest of my time here, I'd like to go back because there are a couple of things that we talked about that were my questions, in my opinion. I know HUD. I ran the governor's office of federal state programs. I understand the HUD program. Right now, HUD is in the Jackson office is handling the city's money. The city of Jackson is not doing it. It happened under a previous administration that shall remain nameless. I understand new market tax credits. Just put together a senior housing development at Cade Chapel, $14 million project, about to do 3 projects over in the Thornton area at about $24 million. So I understand those programs.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. Mr. Priester.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. If not mandated by the legislature, would you support efforts to have individual wards, neighborhood associations choose appointments to the Jackson Public School Board?
You know how they define insanity? They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If JPS wasn't a D-rated school system right now, maybe I'd have more willingness to support what we've been doing with our school board. But democracy and the chance to get something done different calls on doing different things. And on that note, I'd say yes, let's have democracy work. Let's make these people publicly accountable by going and having to go before you, the people. Because I look at this room, this is what Jackson looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Y'all are qualified to pick a school board. Y'all know better as parents, as grandparents, as community members, what a school board should look like, what a school board member should do, who a school board member should be. So yes, I would be very much in favor of trusting you to select your own school board members. Thank you.
Out of respect for the office, I would like the mayor still to make that appointment. But being transparent as a mayor, I would also talk to the board presidents and associations for their vote, what their input into it. I wouldn't just make it myself based on what I've seen in the past, friends and relationships and favors that you have found. But I will be transparent with the wards and with those different associations to hear their input before I do elect a person. But out of respect for the position, I still will leave that up to our mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Before we move to the next set of questions, Mr. John Reed has joined us, and we would like to give him the opportunity to at least make an opening statement before we move forward. Mr. Reed.
I'm John Reed. I live in the Valley North area, and I'm candidate for your next mayor, and I would love to have your support. And with your support, I intend to do the best job that I can.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. We will return to our questions, and we will go once again to Ms. Clinton. And this question will also be answered by Mr. Smith and Mr. Dunn. The question is, Ms. Clinton, how will you fix Farish Street?
That was the question I was waiting on. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. How would I fix Farish Street? I would fix Farish Street by looking at it holistically. We can't just look at a strip of entertainment venues for Farish Street. Farish Street needs to be a whole community. We have got to look at Farish Street as some place where people not only go to be entertained, but to live, to buy gas, to do all the things that are made up in a community. Just recently, just before our late mayor died, I met with Tim Bennett, who was a person who tried to get the baseball field here in the city of Jackson. But he was unable to do that. He had to go out to Pearl. What did that cost us? That cost the development around us in our surrounding area in Pearl, and it's had a cumulative effect. Now it's the Mississippi outlets. What we need to do for Farish Street is to work through the process, and working with that, we can build it. What Tim Bennett said to me was, I will help you develop Farish Street. He plans to put a baseball field there, and he asked me to help him in that regard. It would be a great community for us. We can do it, we will do it, and it has to be done with the convention center hotel.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, same question.
Farish Street has been talked about ever since I've been here in Jackson. And the only thing that's going good for Farish Street right now is a bunch of bricks in the street. One of the first things that I would do is close out whatever contracts are lingering over Farish Street. I would regenerate contracts with new developers, new business owners, new venues, implementing it right away, day one. This is one of the first attractive areas that we have here in Jackson that we could work. And while we're sitting on it, it's not understood. I would definitely put businesses in the Farish Street area, movie theaters, bowling alleys, etc., right away, because Jackson downtown needs a venue for the people to go to.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Doctor.
Thank you. So Jesus sees a fig tree that wasn't bearing fruit. And what does he do? He curses it. I think that at this point, we need to look at Fair Street and understand that the people who have been promising us that they are going to deliver, they have not done so, and they need to be fired, and they will be fired under Tony Yarborough administration. Second of all, there is an absolute understanding that the decisiveness has to be made about what direction does the city of Jackson have to go in. Ferry Street is only a snapshot of what the city of Jackson has the opportunity to become, and that is a city of lights and entertainment. And as we look forward to moving Jackson into that light and into that understanding, we've got to be able to market our city in such a way that developers understand that when they come to the city of Jackson, not only do they need to come with a plan, they need to come with a financial model that excludes the city from expending the taxpayers' dollars to the degree that we're left hanging when nothing is done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The next question is for Mr. Johnson, Ms. Barrett-Simone, and Mr. Lumumba. The question is, in spite of the most recent issues involving the Jackson Zoo, many of the board positions remain unfilled. Will you respect the immediate community's wishes regarding these positions, and how soon will you fill these positions?
I certainly will respect the community's wishes. In fact, we filled those positions when I was in office before with community leaders from West Jackson. But let me just say this about the zoo. The zoo is a jewel, a diamond in the rough, and that's why we supported the zoo. That's why in a bond issue that was issued several years ago, we put $1.5 million in that bond issue for the zoo, to upgrade the zoo. That's why we spent a lot of time working in Livingston Park, cleaning up Livingston Park, creating a new atmosphere, environment around Livingston Park. That's why on Capitol Street, we put in the wrought iron fence to give, again, increase the appearance of the zoo. Yes, I would definitely make sure that those positions are filled, and filled with people in the community. And let me just say this, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous for people to talk about moving the zoo. It's ridiculous for them to talk about moving the zoo outside of the city of Jackson. I'm going to fight to keep that zoo right where it is, and I'm going to fight to make sure it has the resources to maintain the accreditation that I know it's going to get.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. This controversy recently with the zoo and then moving it, I think is an absurd issue. We are totally committed to keeping the zoo where it is. It is a main attraction not only in our city, but in West Jackson. Mr. Tillman, of course, has been, as the councilman in that area, at the forefront of that fight. But we cannot afford to lose our zoo. And I agree with the mayor. We've got to do everything that we can do to make sure that we maintain that accreditation. And I believe that, and I know that the appointments of Ward 7 are currently active, and I will see that other boards do that same thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett-Simone. Mr. Lumumba.
Quickly, with the zoo is going to stay right where it is, okay? And you don't have to ask me at any stage in this campaign or going forward whether I will respect the wishes of the people. My platform is that the people will always decide, okay? So that's not a question that you know, you already know what my response would be to that. I'm going to take the liberty, as my friend John Horn did, to answer a few questions that passed me with the school board appointment, the school board, and how we look to appoint that. Our position is that we need to work with the legislator to make certain that the people elect the school board, okay? Far beyond just going to, you know, give me your opinion of who I should appoint. I believe that the school board must be directly accountable to you. When we talk about Ferry Street, we can't talk about Ferry Street without first having an honest discussion with people and letting them know that there's a legal dispute going on with Ferry Street, right? And until that legal dispute is resolved, nothing is happening with Ferry Street, but Ferry Street must certainly survive as an entertainment district. We can't compete with other cities at a convention center and fight for conventions when there's nothing for people to do after they leave there.
Give each candidate in his and her closing statement to respond to any other issue that they have not had a chance to respond to. Otherwise, we might be there longer than all of us wish to be. So please observe these rules. Thank you. Mr. Horn, this is the next question.
So I guess I can't talk about Ferry Street, huh?
Okay. This is the next question, Mr. Horn, beginning with you. Do you, and this question should also be answered by the other three candidates, to give Mr. Reed an opportunity to answer this question. And then we will move to the last question before we open up for the audience. The question is, do you have a plan to reduce crime in the city? If so, please give 3 specifics of your plan. Do you have a plan to reduce crime? If so, give 3 specifics of your plan. Mr. Horn.
Yes, I've been a victim of crime twice in the last year. And I know a lot of other people in this room have. If you've been victimized by crime in the last year, raise your hand. Or you know somebody who's been victimized by crime. If we don't solve this crime problem, we can have all the pretty paved streets in the world. We can have all of the economic development efforts in the world, but they will go for naught because crime is going to drive it away. Yes, the first thing we're going to do is give an across-the-board pay raise to the police officers who protect us, who are not making enough money. We're going to give police officers the opportunity to go and do their part-time work using their vehicles, using their uniforms, using their equipment. We're going to deal with part of the crime problem is what's happening with the jails. We have a revolving door in our jails, and we need to shut that revolving door and keep criminals where they need to be. Another thing that we're going to do is we're going to put a comprehensive plan together so we know where the holes are as it relates to crime in the city and what needs to be fixed, whether it's the prosecutor's office, the judge's office, or the sheriff's office in terms of prisoners being able to get out after they've been in only for a few hours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. That same question, Mr. Christie.
Thank you. Jobs, jobs, jobs are the most important thing that we can do to cut back on crime in Jackson. That being said, we do have to give our police some new tools. For example, the city of New Orleans engages in what they call predictive policing. They use statistics and they use social media to figure out where crime is most likely to be, and make sure that police officers are in the neighborhoods where the crime is most likely to happen, when it's most likely to happen. In addition to doing things like predictive policing, I think it's important that we give our young folks more to do. That's why I have been so active in terms of building after-school programs in our communities, giving our kids something to do at night, such as the community movie night program that I've been doing throughout Ward 2. Our kids get in trouble because they're bored and they lack things to do. Let's stop criminalizing all of our kids. We have good kids in our city, and I'm tired of throwing them away because we don't have actions for them. Finally, we've got to do something about reentry and making sure that when people get out of jail, they've got a place to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christie. Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Priester already took my answer pertaining to our young folks. But when it comes to crime, we got to stop crime before it happens. As for the police, we giving them raises that was mentioned, and my plan and goal is to give them a raise, but not only them a raise, all our city employees raises. You all are doing an excellent job, so you all need to be applauded. But as for crime, we got to stop before it happens. When it's a thought in someone's head, we got to address it at that point. So we're going to depend more on you as citizens. When it's someone here, you also, they tell someone, and whoever they're told, it's up to you to say something to discourage them, or tell them a better way. And with my youth center, Genesis and Light Center, we've been curbing crime for 20 years now. So we gave these young folks something to do during the weekdays, during the days. So, and also businesses, we want you to pool resources together. Some you may cannot afford a security guard, but if 2 or 3 businesses get together, you can pay together for a security guard. But economic development will be our key, as was already mentioned. Once we bring more businesses here, we'll have more resources, more funding, and more money where people won't have to steal or take.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Reed.
Yes. Come down to reducing crime. I believe in prevention. I believe in partnership. I believe that we should start with our police force first. I think we should bring back training, educating our police officer in safety, sensitivity courses, so they'll know when they go home to their loved one, they'll know how to treat their loved one as citizens. And as far as the community, I would pick some law-abiding citizen in the city. And I would educate those citizens on using the radios. And we send them to classes to learn how to use those radios. And once they learn how to use those radios, we would get to them out in the community if they see something, a crime act, something going on, that they would call the dispatcher. And the dispatcher will notify the police officer.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Okay, for the last question from the moderator and after the candidates have responded to this question, we will open up the question for the audience, and there are persons in the audience who are going to manage this particular process. And I would like to start this last question from my right with Mr. Reed, and we will end with Ms. Quinn. The late Mayor Lumumba ushered through a 1-cent sales tax. Many people thought that could not be done here in Jackson. When we look at that particular 1-cent sales tax, a lot of questions people asking us about the revenue. So the question is, have you developed a spending plan for revenue from the 1-cent sales tax? And if so, what are the major points of your plan? Have you developed a spending plan for revenue from the 1-cent sales tax? And if so, what are the major points of your plan? Mr. Reed.
I will continue on our late Mayor Lumumba. Continue to work on the water and sewer and continue to do what he started. And I think that we're on the right track.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Mr. Wilson.
First of all, I want to just, our late mayor did come up with a plan, but I want to apply it to people. Because the 1-cent sales tax is coming out of our pockets. We don't want our actually spending the money. We don't want our paying for it. And I applaud the people of Jackson for passing that and voting for that. Because not only that, we have also done other things to make our city better. And all we're looking for is to get improvement, get our cities and streets and water fixed. So my spending plan is just get it done. We're dealing with house money now. That's money already given. So all we have to do now is spend it. And spend it on the right things. Spend it on our water and sewer to make sure we get our streets fixed and we're not tearing up cars and tearing up our vehicles going down the street. So it's not complicated to do. All we do now is put it in place and use those monies where it was allocated for.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Priestley.
Thank you. Step one of the plan is listen to you, the people. That is the most important part of this, that we have to make sure that we include you, the neighborhoods, and the citizens in the decision-making process and management of the 1%. I have been already on the council making sure to include the people. And here's how. For example, when the Public Works Department came up with a rough draft of how to spend the money, I took that plan to the neighborhoods and I showed it to people. And they said, Melvin, they're talking about paving Hilda Drive. Ain't nobody live on Hilda Drive. That's what you get when you have people involved in the spending process. Step two, we've got to put people with integrity and experience that you can trust on the commission to manage the money. That we can't just have strangers. We can't have people that have not had experience managing large budgets. I promise you, if you elect me, you will have people you know and trust on that. Number three, we can't make any mistakes. We've made mistakes with CDBG money under the prior administrations. We're not going to make mistakes now with this 1%.
Thank you, Mr. Priestley. Mr. Horn.
Well, first of all, I want to set the record straight. Senate Bill 2398 was authored by John Horn that established a 1-cent sales tax for the city of Jackson in 2011. And what did the city of Jackson do? They refused to put it to the people for a vote. They refused for 2.5 years to put it to the people for a vote. And finally, because this is about the truth here. then Councilman Lumumba, then Mayor Johnson, then Councilman Yarber, then Councilman Barrett, then there's another councilman down there. They refused to bring it up to the people for a vote. To his credit, Mayor Lumumba, when he became Mayor Lumumba, saw the wisdom of putting the 1 cent sales tax to a vote. And we have that 1 cent sales tax now because the chauffeur is busy to get it done. So we've got a master plan. We're putting together a master plan. And that master plan has to be worked with by the city and the commission in order to get the plan brought forward. So we need the input of the citizens, and it needs to work through that commission and have it so that we make sure that the citizens have a vote in it and have a voice.
First off, let me say this. I recognize my platform when I hear it. I wrote it. So when it comes to the 1% sales tax, right? And I thank the credit that was given to my father for putting it to the people to the vote. See, when we say that the people must decide, how are we going to make Jackson rise? The people must decide, educate, motivate, organize. That's more than a slogan. That's something we're committed to, right? So we're going to put it to the people to vote, right? Because what we fundamentally believe is when you give people the proper information and the opportunity, the people will make the right decision, right? And so what we have now is a situation where we had over a 90% passage rate on the 1% sales tax. So people agreed on it. Where people are not going to agree is where that money is spent and who does the contracts. So that's why you need leadership which is committed to keeping the people's voice at the front of every decision we make.
First of all, I want to commend all of you who are here tonight that voted for the 1% sales tax. I found in this election that many of those that could least afford it were the ones who realized the seriousness of the situation and voted for it, and I'm deeply appreciative of what you did. Most of what we will be doing is under EPA mandates. That's why we're under the consent decree. In the meantime, we will be talking to all of our citizens, all of our neighborhoods, to find out what they feel their needs are, and we will work from there. But this is a huge thing. When we just came back from Washington, and I told them how we passed this referendum with over 90% of the vote, and simply people could not believe it. They had never heard of anything so incredible. And thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett-Simone. Mr. Johnson.
You know, we do need to get the record straight. Let me just say, though, in terms of having a plan, there are plans that exist right now, water plan, there's a consent decree plan, we have a street plan. But let's get the record straight on the Senate bill that was passed in 2011. I went to the legislature and asked the legislature to modify that bill so that we could do water and sewer. Because prior to that, public safety was what the money was going to be used for. Let's make sure that we tell the truth and we have proper information. I was never against the sales tax. What I was against is the commission. Now, if somebody said, well, we need to let the people decide. Well, guess what? The people of Jackson, through their elected officials, will have 3 votes on a 10-person commission. So you decide what you would have done under those circumstances. I'm going to always fight for the citizens of Jackson. That commission did not make any sense. I'm glad that the tax was passed. I will work hard to make sure that the money is spent properly, but don't be fooled, because some of these people who are telling you they were for the tax were really for the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Dawes.
Well, let me simply say that what you all did when you voted for this 1% sales tax is that you essentially made Jackson, Mississippi the epicenter for a renaissance in the South. You have given us the opportunity to create jobs along with a wealth of other things. What we need to do, first of all, is we need to scope and sequence these projects. We need to talk about where they're going to be, how we're going to spend the money, and then we need to be transparent in that resolve. And here's how we're going to do that. We're going to create a virtual platform on the city's website Well, you have the opportunity to go. I see 3 colors, green, red, and yellow. Green means the project is going on. Yellow means that the project is in queue. Red means the project will be started at some time. You'll have the opportunity from your laptop or your PC to click on green to find out who the contractor is, how much it was bid for, when it's supposed to start or finish. That's when the people really take control. And I'm giving it to you because I'm prepared to do it today.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Smith.
The city of Jackson will never win with politics. It will never win. We are in a crisis. It's a spiritual problem. And when we line up spiritually, things in the natural will line up as well. 1 minute is not enough time to explain what we're going to do with this money. First of all, I thought it was premature. I was for it, but I thought it was premature. Why have millions and millions of tax dollars and there's nowhere to spend it in Jackson? The first thing we should have done was establish economic development downtown, begin at the core. The citizens, the senior citizens, the elderly, the disabled, they're the ones suffering right now with this tax. We need to bring economic development into the city right away.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Finally, Ms. Quinn.
I want to set the record straight in terms of what actually happened with that 1% sales tax going to a referendum. As you know, our late mayor, Chopin Lumumba, was against the commission. So was our previous mayor. But I knew this. We needed money to deal with the consent decree. We've got a $400 million bill that is not a question as to whether or not we're going to pay it. We've got to. The question is how we're going to pay for it. So in one of those meetings that Chopin Lumumba afforded me, and I'm so thankful that he did, he allowed me to help him to come up with a strategy to get that done. So I asked him, if I can go to the Chamber of Commerce and get them to give you their votes, would you go along with that? And he asked me, do you think they would do it? And I told him, I don't know, but I'll try it. He said, well, go to the city council and ask them if they would approve it. So we decided who would talk to who. And I went, and they know who I talked to, and I know what they said. But the bottom line is this. The people of Jackson moved it forward, it was done, and that's what was needed. I didn't sit on the sideline after the election. I got in the game, and that's what I'll do as mayor of the city of Jackson. We can ill afford to have people doing politics as usual for whatever reason. The point of it is we got some serious issues in this city, we need to deal with it. And I'm prepared to deal with it.
Thank you, Ms. President. Thank you very much. We are now going to move to questions from the audience. There are monitors there who are going to recognize these persons. Once we are done with the audience questions, we will give each of these candidates 2 minutes for closing statements, and they can say whatever it is that they wish to say in rebuttal to anything that was said in any of the other responses to the question. So we are now prepared for audience questions. Here, right here. Yes, ma'am.
Mike. Line them up at the mic. People get in line at the
Good afternoon. My name is Julia Sandel, and I have lived in the city of Jackson all my life, which is 68 years. I have worked on various communities, activities in this community. And the first question I would like to ask anyone, it doesn't matter, on education. Education is the key. If we do not educate our people, we won't have anything. And the first thing about education is the truancy law. I would like to know, what would you do about the truancy law?
Mr. Yarber would like to respond to that.
Oh, Mr. Yarber, okay, that's fine.
Well, if you want to know about horse racing, you probably better ask the horse. When it comes to truancy, I've led since I got on council on the truancy issue. We haven't been able to get traction on it for several different reasons. But as it relates to education, this council person is leading on that particular subject. Right now, we've introduced a model in the city of Jackson called Alignment Jackson. Alignment Jackson is about to introduce to the citizens of Jackson and to students a reform model that's going to revolutionize how we do school. Imagine with me that you walk into Jim Hill High School. When you walk in, you're hungry. No problem, because when you walk in, there is an academy where the young people in that school are prepping their food, they're cooking the food, they are running the register, they are doing all of the purchasing for the things in there, and it's all wrapped around a common core curriculum that gives your students an opportunity to compete. And these are the kinds of things that we're leading on. As a matter of fact, in this fall, you'll see that 9th grade students in the city of Jackson will be a part of a 9th grade academy. And as they enter into this 9th grade academy, we all understand that those 14 and 15-year-olds are too old to be with our 8th grade babies. But they are not old enough yet to be with those 10th and 11th and 12th graders. We have a solution to that, and you'll see it in 2014.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Lumumba has a response to that question.
Yes, I'd just like to respond to that question. Look, what we have to do is look at the pedagogy, right? That's the methodology in which we approach education. Right? One of my father's favorite examples that he used to use often when he was speaking to the subject of education is an example of me, right? When I was at Davis Elementary, I was disinterested in the program that we were dealing with, right? And so I had a teacher who changed the pedagogy. She changed the approach of how we were learning. She took a simple story such as Hansel and Gretel, right? And instead of just reading it and doing a book report, what she did was she put Hansel and Gretel on trial. Where she made me an attorney to defend Hansel and Gretel, right? And then she made some of the other students prosecutors, and then she made the rest of the class a jury. And so we all became invested in the process, right? So what we have to understand is that we have to change that process. And we have to engage our students into education. And then you don't have such a problem with truancy when students want to go to school.
Okay, you let Mr. Johnson respond to that question, then you will take another question from the audience.
Well, I'm glad Councilman Yarwood mentioned Alignment Jackson. Alignment Jackson is modeled after Alignment Nashville. And this effort, this initiative started when I was in office before. And so I'm very excited to see that it's moving ahead now that I'm out of office. But let me just say one thing about education and educating our children. All of our children are our children, whether they're our biological children, our community children, our church children, whoever they are. That's why we need to mentor those children. I've mentored at Rowan Middle School since 1993. It's up to all of us to make sure that our children are properly educated, properly nourished, properly directed. We all need to get into that game. So what I do, and what we have done, and what I plan to do, is to make sure that mentoring becomes a keystone in helping our young people. It's extremely important that we all mentor, teach out, reach out a young person. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnson. Ms. Barrett, going to respond to that, and then we'll take this lady here, and then the lady there. We got some hands back here, and the lady back here. So I'm going to get to you. Just be patient. I see you. Go ahead.
I've done a lot of work on this at the national level through chairing the advisory council of the National League of Cities. We took on early education several years ago, and the consequences of children who don't enjoy the privilege of early education. The way we were able to sell this topic to the men from around the country, I'm not saying all men, but many of them did not understand the importance of early childhood education. The message is, you pay now or you pay later. And we just now in this state are realizing that we've incarcerated all these young people that have no business being in these jails. And if we had educated them when they were young children, you would never, ever see what's going on now. And believe it or not, these criminals are smart. They could have been good students. They could have been successful. and we need to, again, try to rescue them. But pay now or pay later is the message on that.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. There's a question here, the lady here. Yes.
It's my understanding that prior to a vote, there's a work session. So the city council is aware of whatever votes are going to be on the agenda. My question is not directly aimed at anyone in particular, but I am going to mention the name because I would like to know, do you think it's important to be present when there are certain agendas up for vote, particularly the 1% sales tax referendum? Councilman Yarber, you were absent when the referendum was put forth in October, and then when it was passed in January, you were absent. So do you think it's important for council members to be present when there are such important issues at hand?
Glad I had the opportunity to respond, and it's my opportunity to further educate. Then President Tillman, who gave me the opportunity to lead the Education Ad Hoc Committee, also allowed me the opportunity to participate in a function that was council related. And so as a result of that, I was not present for that particular vote. However, let me explain this. My presence on the council and my body of work, it speaks for itself. If you ask the citizens in Ward 6 who are getting their doors kicked in at 56 houses per week, and then we implemented a program that stabilized and gave citizens in those neighborhoods a tour to use, and we went from 56 houses getting kicked in a week down to 12, they'll tell you that they don't care if I was there that day or not. They're glad their stuff didn't get kicked in. Ward 6, let me hear you. And so we are excited about the opportunity to represent the city to the capacity that we build capacity, that we're not nitpicking over the small things that keeps us divided in this city as we've seen it go on before. So we're going forward. We're moving forward with a plan and a program that includes all of God's people.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. Mr. Member would like to respond to that.
Yes, I think that it calls for my response since the young lady who presented the question, Ms. Gross, was wearing a Lumumba t-shirt, right? But, it's absolutely important that, when we talk about being transparent, that we're completely transparent. See, there's not going to be any negative sentiments between any of these candidates, but we do need to be honest and we need to be clear. Let's be honest, when we don't miss one meeting on the subject, but we miss two, or when we go into your ward, and we're going into every ward in order to educate the people on 1% sales tax, you need to be present, right? We need to know why you're there, because the people, when we have the conversation about whether you voted on it and you say yes on 90.1, we don't know what you did in the booth, right? We don't know what you did in the booth. What's important to the people is what you did with the position that they elected you to be in, right? So we can't play politics with things. We can't play politics. Everything that comes up, a decision has to be made. A decision, the people require that. Not every decision is going to be agreed on by every segment or every person in the community, but it's your responsibility to hold up and make a decision for the people.
Thank you, Mr. Member. Ms. Quinn, you can go ahead and respond, and the lady behind you has the next question.
Okay.
Yes.
One of those conversations that I had that Mayor Lumumba asked me to have was with Tony Yarber, just to set the record straight in terms of that. When we talk about transparency, when we talk about what our leaders are expected to do moving forward, we've got to lead. We can't lead from behind. We can't do this. See which way the wind is blowing, and then go that way. That's not the mark of a leader. We've got to determine what it is that needs to be done and go do it. Interestingly enough, the 4 conversations that I had with the city council persons, I tried to get meetings with 4 of them, which is what I was asked to do by the mayor. I wasn't able to get 4 meetings. I was able to get two conversations by phone I had. And interestingly enough, 2 of those people are running for mayor. Politics cannot be in governance. It's too serious. We've got critical issues. We need to deal with it. Put the politics aside.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn. And the lady there has the next question. Please.
Hello, my name is Cameron Warren, and everybody's supposed to think I'm a little girl. I'm a grown, like 38 years old. And I'm here to say I have been places to stay. People need food to eat. And I was thinking about how you can protect your business ways and everything, job when folks breaking in and stuff. I was thinking about you need like a shock attack and door and stuff. And I would like for something like getting this city together, like we need like places for kids to go have a little good time and stuff, more security going other than guests too. We want to catch the vicar and everything. And
I want to thank you for your comment, because you touched on one of the most important things we can do, which is give our kids some places to go. That I have been on the council fighting to expand after school programs, fighting to give our kids somewhere to go. And that's one of the most important things. Everyone in this city knows it, and I've got a record of doing something about it.
Thank you, Mr. Christian. The next question.
Can I respond to that? I mean it in also, because I got a place for them to go. And for the last 20 years, I've been giving them a place to go. And that's our youth center. And we need to add more after-school programs as well. A lot of times, our kids don't have a voice, and I have been a voice for them. We got some great kids here in Jackson, but a lot of times we get into these heated politician battles that we hear that's taking place. We forget about real people. And we can't get into that anymore. We got to move Jackson in a different direction. And as for Wilson, we better work with the kids and work with the adults as well. But let's move them on.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. We're going to take one more question from the audience, and then we're going to have the closing statements. I'm told that we should move in that direction. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mike, I'm Tanya Brooks, and some of you may not even know me. I'm one of the names that was on the candidacy, one of the 15. I just want to help our people, that's residents of Jackson. I want to know if once you're voted in, whoever's going to be voted in, do you all collectively agree to come together and help for that collective goal, which is to make our streets better, to make it safer for us, and to have programs that are age appropriate. A program does not help like a 15-year-old as well as like a 5-year-old after school.
Okay, let me let Mr. Horn say anything each question. Take the first question, and then we'll let
Thank you. You know, over the past 20-some-odd years, I've been in the Senate. And I've seen elections come and go, and I've seen politicians at the local level come and go. And no matter how much I might have agreed with them, no matter how much I fought with them, when it came to working for the betterment of the city of Jackson, my opportunity and my interest was in getting back together with them, working with them. You know, I did not support Harvey. I ran against Harvey Johnson when we ran in 2009. But Harvey became mayor. My job was to be a good senator. I was a good senator. I didn't support Chokwe Lumumba when he became mayor, when he was running for mayor. But when he became mayor, I worked with him. We worked together on that 1-cent sales tax. This is what we've got to do in Jackson. We've got a faction on every corner in Jackson. You know, folks get in these little cliques, and it gets to be so much about the game and about my boy winning, my girl winning, and not about Jackson winning. Jackson needs to win this. We need to come together this time. We need to come together. And if we do that, there's nobody that can stop Jackson, Mississippi.
Please, candidates, keep this quick so we can move to the opening statements. Mr. Lumumba, Mr. Priester, Mr. Yarborough, and Mr. Johnson will be the last one.
I'll just say this, that we can absolutely work together. You know, we need to function on a principle of unity, criticism, unity, right? We can come to the table, discuss where we see eye to eye, understand where we have a common vantage point on things. And then we can criticize or debate where we don't agree with the objective of reaching greater unity at the end of the day than we walked in the door with, right? So we're very capable of doing that. And I think that we have to have leadership which is committed to standing by those principles that move you forward, even though we may have differences of opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Okay. Well, would you like to?
Yeah, I do want to say something about this because I think it's good to speak the truth. You know, It's good for us to get up here and say we're going to work together, and after the election, we're going to work for the people of the city of Jackson. I suggest that you look at the record of people working for the city, because it's not just running for office. It's not just holding office. It's not just passing bills in the legislature. It's serving on the board of Smith Robinson Museum, making sure that that museum is protected. It's serving on the board of the boys of YMCA. It's service to this community. It's making sure that our arts community is preserved and served properly through the Arts Council. It's service, not just making sure that you're elected to office, because we're going to all say good things up here. We're saying great things about each other now. But you know what? If we believe in working together, why do we have people at different levels of office endorsing other candidates, working for other candidates? That's not a spirit of cooperation. That's politics. And what you're hearing up here tonight is politics as well.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We are now going to go to the closing statements. Let me say before we do that I am quite proud of us in this room. We have shown people that we can have a forum and we can do it in a very civil way. And I'm very proud, and I think you ought to give yourselves a hand. We will start the order of the closing statements with, to my left, we will give Ms. Quinn the first opportunity to close. Each person is to have 2 minutes. They can say whatever it is that they wish to say, in rebuttal to anything else that was said by someone else, but you would have 2 minutes. And I'm told the timekeeper is going to be very much at stake on this one. Ms. Quinn. We can start with Ms. Reed. Mr. Reed.
I want to thank you all for coming out. And when you look to see that you have 15 candidates for mayor, that lets you know that we are concerned about our city. We know that Jackson is the capital of Mississippi. And we must gain our reputation back, our respect, and how we go about doing that. We must continue to work on crime. We must bring back all our businesses back to Jackson. We must realize that we cannot do this overnight. It didn't get like this overnight. It's going to take some time to get out of this. It's going to take everybody working together. It's going to take togetherness, unity. We're going to start in our homes. We must educate our children. And we must continue to fight crime. All this sensitive killing, it's got to stop. I know about that. My son was murdered. Sensitive. We've got to stop all of this black on black killing. We must all work together. It's not a black issue, it's not a white issue, it's our issue here in Jackson. We must all come together and work together to try to solve all of these problems that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Wilson.
First, I want to thank everyone for coming out. What I like to say, my motto of my business is what we need for our city. We took abandoned, vacant building, we turned it into a multi-million-dollar center for young people. And we constantly say we don't have enough for them to do, but we have something to do with Genesis and Light Center. And we need to do more, work to have more centers and put more money into our community. We hear a lot of people here talking, but it's time for service. No one's bringing service to our community. And the service I done brought out and help hundreds of thousands of young people to resist drugs and stay out of trouble and not become a statistics. And I've worked with, and the building we have is not just for kids. We have hosted many events for the community. It's open for the community as well, giving access and workshops to parents and as well as giving places for our senior citizens to have as well. So I have over 20 years of being the voice for the voiceless and being to help those who are helpless. Being a defense for the needy is encouraging those who have been discouraged. So as mayor, I want to fulfill the late Mayor Lumumba's mandate of fixing the street. But I'm not only going to fulfill his mandate, I want to invest and do my own, which is investing in people, places, and things. You all are great citizens, and all we have been doing is taxing you all. So now it's time to invest back into you all. Starting with pay raises for our city employees. And before my mayor is over with, being a mayor is over with, it'll be an investment into each and every one of our citizens here. We're going to market our business here and highlight them right here in Jackson. We're going to bring new business to Jackson. And we're going to stop sweeping under the rug the things that have hindered us, that stopped us from being that great city. The high property taxes, the high tags, vehicle tags, our crime. We're going to address those issues. Our education deficiencies, as well as the lack of opportunities when we do graduate. We graduate, a lot of people graduate from Jackson State, but they got to go to other places because we don't have the opportunities right here. And economic development will be their plan.
Thank you, Mr. Priestley.
Thank you. Let me begin by thanking the organizers of tonight's event. Let me thank you for being here. It has been a true pleasure to be here tonight. My first job ever was working up the street at the Stew Pot, serving kids in the after-school program. I love West Jackson. I love Jackson. That we've got more work to do than we have ever done before. I am committed to listening to the people. That's something, democracy and listening to the people, that's more than a platform. That's a principle that's 2,000 years old. And I'm committed to doing that because I grew up in Jackson. I've had a business here in Jackson. I've seen where this city is, and I've got a vision as to where it needs to go. We are sitting on more than any city in Mississippi. We're on the confluence of, we were where I-55 and 220 meet. We have an airport. No other city in the state of Mississippi has that. We have a teaching hospital. No other city in the state of Mississippi has one of those either. We have the tools to be a world-class city. And I am sick and tired of us not being a world-class city. I promise you, we're going to do something different. We're going to bring the tools for economic development that focuses on the small businesses. We've been talking about Ferris Street and how some people want to fire the people on Ferris Street. We've already fired the people on Ferris Street. That's what we did when we kicked out David Watkins. It's time for us to focus on you and you and you and all of the people in our neighborhoods and the small businesses and give them an opportunity to take over Ferris Street. Give the folks in Midtown and these other neighborhoods that have been building things with nothing, give them some of the resources and the money because I am committed to making Jackson better and getting Jackson ahead. So on April 8th, please vote for Melvin Priester Jr.
Thank you.
People say, well, what are you going to do about Jackson? As mayor of Jackson, what are you going to do? Well, the best way to determine what a person is going to do is to look at what they've done. You can talk about and say anything. You can say you're going to climb Mount Everest, but if you never climbed the Mole Hill in Mississippi, you can say anything. You can say anything you want. You can say that you're going to do better, even though you've had 3 shots of doing better. You can say anything, but let's look at what you have done. I hope you'll think about it when it comes down to this election. Whether it's taking it upon myself to recruit and develop grocery stores in the community, or housing projects in our community, or passing legislation to build the JSU Parkway, the Telecom Center and Convention Center, the Civil Rights Museum, the new 4-star hotel in downtown Jackson, or whether it's sponsoring and winning legislative approval for the 1-cent sales tax. John Horn has delivered for the city of Jackson for over the past 20 years. The truth is that we're headed in the right direction. We're headed in the right direction, but it's equally true that the wheels can easily fall off without the right leadership. We need to have proven leadership to take over this job, ladies and gentlemen. And as to my priorities, I intend to work with law enforcement to ensure that no visitor and certainly no resident of this city should feel that Jackson is not a safe place to be in. That includes equipping law enforcement officials and agencies with the tools and incentives they need to do their jobs. We've got great employees in the city of Jackson. They also need to be properly rewarded for the work that they do. You can have economic development. You can fix all the streets you want. But if crime is perceived to be or actually real, Jackson will not be successful. I call on you, Jacksonians, to join me as we find our way forward. To join me because we have proven leadership. Join me because we have experience, and join me as we find our way forward. Thank you very much.
I'd like to first thank everyone for, first I'd like to thank the West Central Jackson Improvement Association for hosting this forum tonight. And I'd like to thank all the people in the audience for attending and the questions that were raised. I started this forum by indicating to you that I'm not a politician. Let me inform you who I am. Many of you don't know me because I've been serving from the back, doing what I needed to do as a servant. I was one of the attorneys myself for the Scott sisters. Right? I was one of the attorneys who protected the integrity of the first black sheriff's race. My family came here to serve back here in '89. I remember being a part of the demonstrations for Johnny Griffin, who was shot in front of his house because he was trying to get drug dealers out of his neighborhood. I remember doing the demonstrations for Andre Jones, who was hung in jail, and it was stated that he hung himself by a shoestring, right? I provide pro bono work for clients every day, right? Because I was raised on the principle that if you're not first prepared to serve, you're not fit to lead. So that's what I understand. That's what I understand, right? So, I submit to you that leadership should come less out of political ambition and more out of necessity. Over the last couple of days, I've heard a number of people try to recast themselves in order to connect themselves to my father's legacy and understand what his leadership was about. And that's okay because maybe that means that it's catching on, those principles are catching on, right? But the best person who's prepared to carry forward what Chokwe Lumumba started is someone who's completely invested in those principles, who understands that you have to involve the people in every part of the process in order to properly lead them, right? So we have some critical decisions here in this election, more critical than it was at the time of my father's election. We have the 1% sales tax that has been passed, but people, everybody agreed on that 1% sales tax, but everybody's not going to agree on how it should be spent, and we need leadership who's focused on the people.
Thank you, and again, thanks to our host and to all of you for taking the time out to be here tonight. I believe that Jackson has a beautiful future, and I see it right ahead of us. But I think we need the right leadership to see that dream realized. We must do this with the understanding that every part of our city, every neighborhood, every business, and every person is equally important. We are all Jacksonians. We are all in this together. We are connected, and we must all be a part of the solution. I'm grateful to have served the city for 29 years as a council person, but I'm humbled to be here tonight to ask for your vote for me as mayor of the city of Jackson. Thank you.
I'd truly like to thank all of you for being here, and thank you for enduring this this forum, all of the candidates here. We appreciate it so much. A lot has been said, or something has been said about crime in the city. You know, we expected to have more conversation about crime because public safety is very important. But let me submit to you one thing. Let's make sure as we talk about crime that we do not commit a crime. That's the most important thing that we can do as individuals. Together we've built over the last 12 years a foundation. Working together we built a foundation in this city. Foundation in terms of economic development. Witness the convention center. Has a $25 million annual impact. Some $2.4 million is paid out in terms of salaries. Witness the Equal Business Opportunity Program that we installed. I see some of the people who benefited from that program. We have over $1 million, $100 million have gone to black businesses here in the city of Jackson because of that program. I see some of the members out there now. In fact, I saw some of them standing with one of my opponents. We are creating a foundation that needs to be built on in this city. A foundation that was created through infrastructure. We spent some $200 million without a sales tax increase, by the way, in terms of fixing infrastructure in the city of Jackson over the last 12 years. We built neighborhood development here in the city. Witness Westland Plaza, the revitalization of Westland Plaza. Witness all of the affordable housing that has taken place in Mid-City, Midtown, South Jackson, West Jackson, Verdon Addition that was supported by this administration. Witness human services, like the Jobs for Jacksonians program, where we've actually hired people, put people to work here in the city of Jackson. We've built a foundation in our city. My commitment to you is to allow me to work on that foundation to make sure that we increase the quality of life here in the city of Jackson. And the city of Jackson can once again operate and fly under the banner, the best of the New South.
Thank you so much. Mr. Dawes. Again, we want to thank the West Central Jackson Improvement Association and giving us the opportunity to speak to you, the citizens of Jackson. Let me do something quickly. I want to recognize my mama. Mama, stand up so they can see you. My mama is 67 years old. It's like you, she is everyday people, West Jackson. She owned a one-chair salon in the sub, did not finish school, married to a man who did not get to graduate from Sumner Hill as a 9th grade student. He is just like you all. I'm just like you. If you are going to say you represent people, you at least need to live where the people are. As we begin to have a conversation about what we're doing in this city, we need to remember that there are people in this city, everyday people like my mama, like folks in West Jackson whose houses are falling in, who need the proper representation. I can't forget you because I can't forget about my mama. This conversation tonight is about who is prepared to lead. You can't give a job to a doctor and you want the doctor to do engineering work. Submit your resume, let the people decide if that resume fits this job description. You're intelligent folks. They don't believe it. Jackson, let's show them.
Thank you, West Central Jackson Improvement Association, for having us here tonight. How many politicians does it take? How many attorneys does it take to move Jackson forward? How many terms does one have to be in office, literally, to get us out of the pitch that we're in? I know most of you all go to church, and we have a prayer life. Hopefully, we have a prayer life. Politics is not going to get us saved. Attorney's wisdom is not going to get us saved. And as it was said, it's the people's choice. I beg to differ. It's God's choice. Many are the plans of a man, but God's purpose will prevail. Signs do not win elections. It's obvious you're trying to clean up Jackson, and you can't even have your workers to put out signs decent enough without polluting corners. Listen, I need you to pray to God for either one of us to get into this seat. But I promise you this. If the wrong person gets in this seat, God's going to deal with them as well. Now, I will say this. I thank God for the late mayor, what he's done. He laid a foundation. It's up to somebody now in the spiritual realm to take it just a little bit further. I need your vote, Francis Smith, for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Before Ms. Quinn gives her closing statement, the organizers have asked me to inform you that there's a few announcements they would like to make, and you just hold on after Ms. Quinn is done. Thank you very much. Ms. Quinn.
Thank you. Thank you again for coming and being a part of this forum. It's extremely important. We're at a critical point within our city right now. And your decision is going to impact you and people to come for generations, I believe. I think that this election really is about four things. It is about the commitment to the people in the city of Jackson. After last year's election, I didn't run off to some other city. I stayed here. I worked with Chokwe Lumumba. I'm not going to step away from him. When he called me the night of the primary and asked me for his support, and I prayed about it, and I talked to my family about it, and I was very reflective. I didn't make a hasty decision, and I stood with him, and I don't believe he would want me to step away from him now. I believe in what Chokwe Lumumba did. It was critical for the city, and I stand by that. I think also this election is about character. It's not just about the ability to do the job, but as been stated so many times, if you don't love the people, you will betray the people. Watch what happens when people are too closely aligned with folks that are not in the best interest of the working class people of this city. Watch out for that. Watch your pocketbook. I promise you, watch your pocketbook. I also believe that this election is about capacity. I have the capacity to do this job. Yes, I'm an attorney, but I am a business attorney. I worked for Jackson State and in the private sector and helped to build the landscape that you see now in Jackson State. I developed the subdivision. I think this is also about the commitment for the compassion, rather, for the people of this city. I've stated numerous times, I love this city. I have a young son. He's at Davis Elementary School. We've got to get this educational system right. But the small business people of this city, these contracts that are coming down the pipe, we've got to make sure that these large companies don't come in, do a dog and pony show, and move them out. They've got to stay involved.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn. Thank you very much. Let us please give the candidates a round of applause. Thank you very much.